In the mountains of southern France, there was a village that defied the Holocaust. Not with weapons. Not with armies. But with something more dangerous to the Nazi regime: organized, collective refusal. Chambon-sur-Lignon was a small Protestant community in Vichy France. Between 1940 and 1944, this village of 5,000 people saved approximately 5,000 Jewish refugees, mostly children, from deportation and death. The entire village participated. Farmers hid families in barns. Teachers forged documents. Pastors organized escape routes. Shopkeepers provided food and supplies without asking questions. When authorities demanded the village turn over Jewish refugees, the answer was always the same: no. This is the story of an entire community that chose resistance. And how ordinary people, acting together, saved thousands of lives. Chambon-sur-Lignon sits in the Haute-Loire region of south-central France. It was a predominantly Protestant community in a largely Catholic country. The villagers understood what it meant to be a religious minority. Their own ancestors had faced persecution centuries earlier. When France fell to Nazi Germany in 1940, the southern region became Vichy France, nominally independent but collaborating with Nazi occupation. The Vichy government implemented anti-Jewish laws. Jewish people were required to register. Their businesses were confiscated. Deportations to concentration camps began. In Le Chambon, the village pastor, André Trocmy, and his wife Magda made a decision. They would not comply with laws they considered immoral. They would not turn away refugees seeking safety. The Trocmys began sheltering Jewish refugees in the church's property and in their own home. They asked their congregation to do the same. And the villagers responded. Families opened their homes. Farmers hid refugees in remote farmhouses. Teachers created false documents for children. What began as individual acts of compassion became an organized resistance network spanning the entire village and surrounding countryside. The village developed systems to protect refugees efficiently. When Jewish families arrived, often with only hours of warning, the network activated immediately. Children were placed with families who would raise them as their own. Adults were hidden in barns, attics, and remote mountain cabins. Forgers created false identity papers. Teachers integrated refugee children into schools under assumed names. The network extended beyond Le Chambon itself. Surrounding villages and farms participated. Protestant networks across southern France funneled refugees to Le Chambon because they knew the village would protect them. When police or Vichy officials arrived searching for hidden Jews, the villagers employed collective denial. No one knew anything. No one had seen anyone. Documents appeared authentic. Children had learned their false names. In 1943, Vichy authorities arrested Pastor Trocmy and other village leaders, hoping to break the resistance. They were imprisoned for several weeks. The arrests were meant to frighten the village into compliance. Instead, the network continued operating. Other villagers stepped into leadership roles. The rescues never stopped. When Trocmy was released, he found the resistance even stronger than before. The authorities realized they faced something unusual: an entire community united in refusal. They could not arrest everyone. They could not break the village's solidarity. What the villagers did was extraordinarily dangerous. Vichy France collaborated with Nazi deportations. Anyone caught harboring Jews faced arrest, deportation, or execution. Entire families could be punished for one person's actions. Yet the villagers continued. Parents risked their own children's safety to protect refugee children. Farmers risked losing their land. Teachers risked their positions and freedom. Why did they do it? When asked years later, villagers often seemed puzzled by the question. Many said simply, it was the right thing to do. Others cited their Protestant faith and the biblical command to help those in need. Some mentioned their own history of persecution. But perhaps the most common response was the simplest: what else could we do? They came to our door. They needed help. The village operated on a principle of collective responsibility. Everyone participated. Everyone kept the secret. Everyone understood that if one person betrayed the network, many would die. This collective commitment meant that no individual bore the burden alone. A farmer hiding a family knew his neighbors were doing the same. A teacher forging documents knew others were providing food. The risk was shared. So was the moral clarity. By the time France was liberated in 1944, Chambon-sur-Lignon had saved approximately 5,000 Jewish refugees. Most were children. Many had lost their parents to the Holocaust but survived because a village chose to protect them. After the war, the villagers rarely spoke about what they had done. They did not consider themselves heroes. They had simply done what their conscience required. It was not until decades later that historians began documenting the full scope of Chambon's rescue operations. Survivors came forward with their stories. They described the families who had hidden them, the teachers who had protected them, the farmers who had shared their food. In 1990, the village of Chambon-sur-Lignon was collectively recognized as righteous among the nations by Yad Vashem. It remains one of only 2 communities to receive this honor as a collective group. Individual villages have also been recognized. But they insisted the honor belonged to everyone. No single person saved 5,000 lives. The village did. The story of Chambon demonstrates what organized, collective resistance can achieve. Not through violence or dramatic confrontation, but through consistent, daily acts of courage performed by ordinary people who refuse to accept injustice. One village. 5,000 lives. For years of organized, collective defiance. When authorities demanded compliance, Chambon said no. And in saying no, they proved that even under occupation, even facing overwhelming power, communities can choose resistance. Thank you for watching.